Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, and everybody inside and outside the ballpark. My name is NovedPlayer, and welcome to episode 70 of the Noved Notes podcast, where we talk about many different communities and creators in the platform. I'm your host, and with me today, I have one of the legendary avatar creators of VRChat who showcases many different amazing things that can be done with avatars. We have everyone's favorite Moth. We have the ringmaster of Traveling Circus. We have DownLyric.
Hello there.
Hello, DownLyric. Welcome to the show. Hope you're doing well.
Oh, I'm doing quite fine, thank you. We had a bit of fun build up to this.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, first and foremost, for the general listening audience, what exactly do you do inside of VRChat?
Inside of VRChat, the main thing that I like to do personally is work on avatars and build avatars that give large-scale performances, some large-scale, some small-scale, mainly just to surprise random individuals and just spread joy and merriment. And then take those lessons that I've learned across the years and give it back to the community and teach people how to do some of that stuff on their own.
That's what's up. So, first and foremost, kind of on that front, before we get too detailed into it, what got you into VRChat in the first place?
Specifically, if I had to pinpoint what got me into VRChat, is actually what got a lot of people into VRChat back in the day, and that was, funnily enough, early day Jameski videos back in the original Ugandan Knuckles comedy era. Back when VRChat was less than 1,000 people, they stepped up and made a video when there was about less than 200 people in the game. And I gotta say, I feel like those videos back then, which have between 8 to 15 million views a pop, got a lot of people into the scene and inspired people to try it. Though, if I'm gonna be honest, I was terrified to try VRChat at first. When I first got VR, I played Rec Room for 6 months, thinking that VRChat would be too chaotic to handle. And instead, once I finally tried it, I learned just how much fun the chaos can be.
No, absolutely. And ironically enough, now looking back at it, I mean, you're one of the most chaotic people I know when it comes to your experiences. So, in a sense, VRChat kind of grew on you as much as you grew to VRChat.
It gave me unlimited creative potential like I've never had in my life before. So it was a super exciting opportunity to just make anything in my head come to life inside of the game if I was willing to put in the time and effort to learn.
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess, because obviously, starting with VRChat, you log in, you see all these avatars. So what kind of made you want to create avatars?
So specifically what made me want to create avatars, and this is kind of funny and where I recommend most people start their journey, is genuinely, I just was in an avatar like this one and just said, hey, I like this, but I wish it were blue. And I want to learn, is there a way that I can learn how to make this blue? So I went through the process of getting educated and looking up guides online, watching videos, and finding things from websites to get a base model to try to learn how to make an avatar blue. And I can tell you that first avatar floated 10 feet up in the air and to the left and barely functioned because we all start somewhere. I tell people, when you want to make an avatar, don't look at stuff like what I've made. Think about starting somewhere small, such as learning how to put a station on something, learning how to change a color. The best thing to do is to start out small and learn what you specifically want to learn. That's what drove me. And sure, I will say I definitely learned things out of the recommended order, but I had a lot more fun doing it that way and pursuing what I was passionate about.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's very good advice overall when it comes to creation, whether it's avatar or worlds. You always want to start small. Well, that's what's up. I was say because obviously when it came to how long you've been on VRChat, because you've been around for quite a long time, since you mentioned like James Key videos and everything. So when it comes to the progression of VRChat over the years, obviously there's been a lot of like SDK and like Unity
Yeah.
changes. So I guess from your personal experience, like what were some of the experiences like kind of switching between these SDKs and Unity versions?
So I will say I was like a number of people that got into the groove of if it ain't broke, don't fix it kind of mentality. Where that and I don't like change. No, they can change it on me. I don't want it. When they introduced SDK3, and I'm like, I don't want to learn new thing. I just learned this thing. I finally got good at 2.0. But once it took me a while to get to 3.0, but once I did, I realized just how much it expanded my options. Going from four menus where you made 4 to 8 toggles maximum to having sub menus in 3.0 was huge. It was groundbreaking. It now let people make avatars that could do 1,000 things. I mean, the menu limit was up to over 1,000, if I recall. It was insane the amount of avenues it opened up. It's, I will say, outside of that, I wouldn't say that changed too much outside of the menu. The real thing that was the groundbreaking game changer was the amount of people who started expanding on the SDK. Because there's some amazing people in the community who've made things from, I'm sure some people here might remember Cyan MU, which was later acquired by VRChat in a sense to make their own world emulator inside of Unity. You've got VRC Fury. One of my go-tos back in the day and one of my old favorites was VRC Avatar Action Menu. All these things made it so people like me who wanted to do a lot of things at once no longer had to spend hours hand building all of the menus, all of the notes, all of the connections that you'd have to make just to build your own one expression menu. Has now been optimized to a couple button clicks, which saves so much time. So I'd say less VRC made an improvement. They did, give them credit where it's due. But we really have to give thanks to everyone in the community who's been working hard and very passionately to increase everybody's ability to make avatars, even from beginner to high level. It's fantastic.
Oh, absolutely. No, I would say because obviously when it boils down to it, a lot of the things that allow us to create avatars and worlds is stuff made by the creator community. I don't know why I almost said creator economy. The creator community.
It's what's on the town right now.
Right. Well, I would say with for example, Cyan Laser and like all of the Cyan Trigger stuff, or Poyomi with the shaders.
So awesome.
Or, it's very, I mean, there's a lot, VRC prefabs, like there's a lot.
All legends.
All amazing things from amazing people. And a lot of it helps so many people, smaller people, not to say, oh, they're big and mighty. No, but what they do is revolutionary for this platform. Whether
other
people like
big artists couldn't do what they do without their help. That's why VRChat is a community-driven game, because it's a bunch of people working together rather than staff members working together to make big, beautiful experiences that expand the game and take it further each time. If it wasn't for people like Poyomi and Cyan Laser and the creator of VRC Fury, I unfortunately do not know their name. If it wasn't for folks like that, plus big creators out there using those tools to create what they would, we never would have achieved what we have achieved up to this point in this game.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, and I mean, while you talked about VRC Fury, there's also modular avatar. There's,
Yeah.
there's like the avatar simulator. There's so many
You
useful
imagine,
things.
you could just imagine how much more difficult it'd be to put together the PJKT world if we didn't have all these tools.
Yeah, no, I mean, luckily, like, yeah, luckily there's some brilliant minds when it comes to VRChat creation in general that
Hmm.
allows us to use these things mostly for free too, mind you. Like
Yeah,
they have every god-given right to, like, charge with how many people use their stuff, but so
and they
many people
could.
they easily could, and but they do it because they're passionate for the VRChat community, and quite frankly, they understand how important this stuff is for people to have, which is it's a blessing in disguise. Um, which I mean, not to toot the horn, but if any of y'all want to come on the podcast, please, like, I want to learn. Like, that'd be some awesome people to have on. but but yeah, kind of to go back into you specifically, because obviously over the many years you've made hundreds of avatars. So out of curiosity, for at this current given time in June of 2025, I would say, how many avatars currently do you have uploaded to your account?
Well, currently, given, well, I can tell you this. Uh, I know it's around 600 right now. The problem is, VRChat has, with the new Explore feature, removed the ability for me to see the exact number of uploaded. It used to display it, so now I'm at the point where I'm at a guessing game. And let me tell you, having 600 avatars with no search bar for your own stuff is is quite a task if you're looking for something incredibly specific. I've got to self-sort it by years in my head.
Oh geez, yeah, that's that's a lot. Long story
Oh
short,
yeah. I
well,
will say though, it
mhm.
is a fun thing to go through and look at it, because by looking at them throughout in the order that they were added, I can physically look back and see just how far I've come, where I learned things, where I improved. It's really nice to have a physical template where if I ever feel like, hey, I feel like I'm not progressing or feel like I'm not picking up enough, I can just look at the list and really see just how far I've come over the years. And I
Mm.
say the same thing to anybody else who makes avatars. If you ever feel like you're in a slump or something, go back and look at your prior work. Sometimes, rather than making something new, sometimes it's nice to go back and revisit something old. See if you can take what you've learned in later years and apply it to your old ones in a way that brings new life into them. That's something I've been doing recently.
No, yeah,
So,
absolutely. And it's absolutely crazy some of the things that you've created from back then up until now. Granted, I didn't know you when you first started, but seeing some of the progression from when I first met you in 2022, um, with VRCon, the final VRCon, um, it it's definitely massively improved even from that point. You know,
oh yeah,
you're
I
able to do
think
crazy
that
stuff.
was. I think looking at the list here, my list says that was about 200 to 300 avatars ago. it's, it is. I used to very back in 2.0 days. I used to be a pump out a couple a week type, constantly learning how to pick up. With 3.0 and the ability to put more things on one avatar, I've definitely slowed down. But at the same time, I slowed down to prevent burnout, which is something I also recommend to other creators. Avoid burnout, make something for what makes you happy. Don't do it that makes just other people happy. If it doesn't bring you joy, what's the point? It's at the core of it, it's your form of creative expression. Let it creatively be you. And if it makes other people happy, even better at the end of the day.
So, 100%. Yeah, no, it's definitely, burnout is a very, serious thing when it comes to creation
I've
process
dealt
and
with it.
everything. And yeah, and it's always good to have some type of way to alleviate that burnout. But yeah, man. Well, I guess kind of to, go more into specifics. So obviously, as time progressed, you created the traveling circus, which is essentially your hub for, doing stuff with your avatar performances and stuff. So I guess out of curiosity, what kind of made you want to go the route of naming it the traveling circus?
So, there's actually quite a backstory there. So, specifically, fun fact, I was actually born and raised in a circus town. So, originally, it is the home of P.T. Barnum's Greatest Show on Earth. There was a movie that was actually made on it a couple of years back, specifically about the origins of that circus and my hometown. The circus is unfortunately long gone now, lasted 150 years. I was fortunate enough to be there for the last few years of it and see it and remember it. It's now been turned into a luxury golf course, but the city has forced them to keep memorabilia and the historical artifacts of that place. It also leads to some cool features around the town. Like we have an old town center with a brick road still. And in that old town center, there's a big clown statue, a 1-to-1 scale elephant statue, remembering them, a giraffe, and there's also stories such as the elephant in the lake, which is real. There's an elephant in our lake that's been there for over 100+ years. The reason why I wanted to call it the traveling circus is because I've always loved the idea of a circus giving an opportunity to those with genuine talent, but the talent that can't be shown anywhere else, to have a spotlight and a place that they can show that off to to happy crowds. As there are plenty of avatar creators out there. There's plenty, not too crazy many though, that like to do things similar to what I do, but just don't have a stage to perform it on. As a lot of the times, you just can't do it in public worlds, and it's hard to find a place to get permission to do what you do for others. Having a hub place where people who love to make interesting shows, visuals, and such on avatars, where they can have full express permission at an event to do what they do best and show off their creative work, is really nice. And it's called the Traveling Circus because at the Traveling Circus, we bring the entertainment to you. It's entertainment on the go that can come with anywhere. Doesn't matter what world, black or white, white or gray, meme or super serious. Our stuff can come with us anywhere and bring smiles anytime, anywhere. At its core, Traveling Circus was founded to try to bring back a little bit of the memory of those old times of the circus. None of the drama, none of the background, just the smiles and laughter people remember of it at its core.
No, absolutely. And, obviously with, all the traveling circus stuff, unfortunately, a lot of it is PC only.
Yes.
If not all of it, but I mean, and there'll be plenty of avatars that we show examples of on the screen. So if you're not watching this on YouTube or Spotify, I highly recommend checking it out, this episode out on those platforms, because there's some really cool visuals that you don't want to miss. But hi, if you're on the YouTube Spotify platform, hello, you get to see all the cool stuff. Which we'll be recording afterwards and putting it on the screen to kind of showcase some of the amazing things. But to kind of go into that a little bit, because you've made various different avatars with many different things. There's a lot, from anything from like having a portable booth, up until having like music performances, like animated and stuff, to even having I think I recall you telling me this one was taken down because of size or something, but I do remember back in the day,
Oh God.
I do remember you had the entire Sears, the VRC Sears,
I missed that.
on an
I'm
avatar.
considering re-uploading that. I want it back so bad. I
Maybe-
use that.
If we have any
yep,
old pictures, we'll throw it up on the screen, but it unfortunately is no longer around.
Yeah, unfortunately, VRChat released a bot into the wild, and the bot went feral on some people's accounts. And it eventually got to mine, and it took a few big ones I'd been using for over a year down. Big sad, but also understandable. I mean, those ones specifically just definitely 8 frames, but they were very memorable experiences for anyone who experienced them. And that's the idea behind them. Give people an experience they can only get in VR, because Sears is nearly effectively dead. So why not bring people back to 1998, where I can dress up as a Sears worker and says, "We're Sears. We're too big to die." Walmart, what's that? This is 98.
Right.
We're the big kids on the scene. You want a toaster?
Right. But anything from that regard to funny little like roller coasters to like, I mean, there's so much. Like I say this in a joking manner, but we got a lot to film when it comes to after this the main interview, because there's so much. There's absolutely so many different experiences. And if I recall correctly, like a lot of these are public, like they're not locked behind anything, or at least a good chunk of them.
So the thing is, most of them are not public. That does require, and no mistake to you for that. The reason they are not public is just because of the fact that at its core, I care about people respecting other people's boundaries. And there is always the fear that somebody might take these and take them to public worlds and potentially abuse them. Especially considering a lot of the avatars have like epilepsy-inducing visuals or lights in some cases. Even if it's not that fast, like changing colors once every half a second, that's still brisk, and you don't want that on your shoulders if somebody abused. However, there are plenty of them that are public. I would say about 1/3 of them are public, and 1/3 out of 600 is hot.
Yeah, I was about to say.
I didn't think about that. 1/3 out of 600 is actually a lot. Holy crap! That's
about 200. It's about 200.
Not that many, just 1/3. Wait a minute. That's more than most people upload in their whole career.
It's all good. But yeah,
there's plenty of stuff. And even for the big performances, we do have some toned down versions of them for people to use publicly.
Yeah, and it's definitely crazy how many of them are very interactive. Because I mean, even myself, like I don't know if I've ever told you this, but anytime I show new people VRChat, there's always 3 things I show. When it comes to like brand new VRChat players, and it's always these 3 things. Fun fact: this is a little bit of Noved lore. So I always show project community first and foremost. It's part of my job, because it's one of the. Speaking of which, I'm going to tangent real quick because this is a good part to tangent on. As of today, when this episode releases, we are in day 2 of Project Fest 2025. So, and you definitely, if you're already there, you probably see us somewhere in the world because we're both project community staff. So yeah, we'll both have our booths over there. So make sure to go check it out. There'll probably be a ad roll, mid roll, probably somewhere in the next like 6 or so minutes talking about project community. We'll leave that to the mid roll. But so that's always number 1. Number 2, I will always show them. So I have a folder on my VRChat account of favorite worlds that are just breathtakingly stunning, whether it's performances by like xCirrex Performance Worlds, or if it's Beyond a Bit, pretty much anything that is visually pleasing. If it's Quest compatible, then I'll show them that. If it's not, it depends on what platform they're using. If they're using standalone or if they're using PC, there's always a different list. So I'll take them to like the most visually appealing worlds, which will include like performance worlds or whatever. And then the third one, if they're specifically PC, this is where the PC Quest kind of divvies up. So if they're PC, I will show them some of the avatars you create.
Oh dang!
As well, because I have about 4 of them on my favorites list, which is the booth from VRCon 2022, the roller coaster, and I can't remember the other 2 off my head. I know those 2 I use a lot. When it comes to because
that
people
booth
don't
is
expect
still
it.
Peak.
It holds to this day, man.
I miss it.
Oh, the I'm going to my room one. I do have that one that I show people.
That's still a good bit. I love to whip out.
It is a very good bit. I'm currently looking through, like, I'm quickly diving through my avatars to see which one is the 4th one. But
God, I need to do another one like that. I had a whole series of things like that, and I'm constantly moving on from one idea to the next. So I'll make a couple avatars based on one concept, and by the time I'm done making those, I've got another new idea I want to test and make. So there's literally eras you can see throughout my avatar list of when I was working on a specific tool, and then when the next tool came out, you can see a whole series based around that specific tool.
Oh yeah, for sure.
God.
But yeah, no, that's all. Now, if they're Quest, I'll show them like Quest avatars that have like a bunch of different customization, like things that expand beyond the limits of Quest that Quest people can see. Which is not a lot, but it's when you do find those things, it is really cool. But so I guess kind of to go back into topic a little bit. So obviously you've been doing performances around VRChat, whether it's like public instances or group instances, or bigger events. So obviously, kind of to go down the timeline a little bit, because obviously, you started with the traveling circus. Actually, when did you start the traveling circus? This is actually a really interesting question. When around did you start the traveling circus itself?
So it actually got started around the same time Groups was introduced, slightly before VRCon 2022. As I decided with the new group feature, it'd be fun to finally have the opportunity to make a community around something. And at first, originally, and it still exists, it's just hidden, there was a group called Lyrics Labs, which was going to just be a community based around where I have posted instructions and threads on all of the systems I've used and how I make everything, as well as ideas for further avatars, where you can see the self-written process on where I started and everything I tested and learned to get there. So you can see with your own eyes that things just don't get made instantly with a thought. There's a whole process. Sometimes you succeed, sometimes you fail. And it's good for people to see that process so that they can realize themselves that failing at something isn't a bad thing. That means there's just more room to grow. And that was Lyrics Lab. But then I came to the realization that I don't really want to make a community just about myself. And instead wanted to make something that's more open for everyone. And so then I was thinking, because I'd been seeing word in the news that circuses were falling out with the whole epidemic that happened and all that, especially circuses had effectively become dead, which was super sad to me for a person who lived and grew up in a circus town. I mean, we've had this guy, we have a yearly town fair. You could tell we're from the Midwest because it's called Cornfest. But since I was a kid, there's this old teacher. He used to be, he was a teacher. He dresses up as a clown every year. We have a parade. They do little performances as clowns where they drive around in vehicles way too small for them and do little donuts and circles and stuff. And then for the last 25 years, he sets up a booth for free at the fest where he will make anybody who comes up free balloon animals or anything they want. Well, dressed up as a clown, which seems scary as a kid, but as you get older, you suddenly realize, wow, this guy's been doing this for 25 years and he's retired now, and he's still doing it into his 70s for free, buying the helium tanks, buying the balloons, and just setting up this stand, making a kid the same balloon turtle wristband that he made me as a kid. And he remembers people's names. I wanted that kind of fun, wholesome experience brought into VRChat. For those that make entertainment, but don't make what is traditional VR entertainment, such as singing or dancing, and instead have talent elsewhere, to have a stage to really show that off. Because I do the same. I realized I just don't really have a place that feels super safe to do what I do. And I imagine there's other out there like me. So I ended up making it. I couldn't make it into VRCon that year. I learned too late to sign up. So instead, I used my know-how to make my own booth and slapped it on an avatar with visual effects of what I do, and let people come and experience it. Used my booth to place it next to other booths that were getting low foot traffic, using the bright flashy colors and stimuli to get people to come to my booth, and then I redirect them to my neighbor's booth and say, hey, this booth's pretty cool, but I couldn't have it here without Snowden over there letting me being okay with me taking up this space. Those are pretty cool guys too. You should go talk to their guy. And that was how I did things back then. I just wanted a place where you could promote unique talent, bring people together who wanted that unique talent, and merge the Lyrics Lab into it. Where if you're on the Discord, you'll find a bottom part called Lyrics Lab where you can see documentations and talk about different world ideas, avatar ideas, and anybody's allowed to message or add to it that they'd like to educate people on how to make the things we make. That's what we wanted at the end of the day, a place for people with unique talents to be able to show them and educate people who want to do them themselves.
Oh, yeah, no, absolutely. Hello, everyone. Real quick, just want to pause the episode right here. I want to personally thank this month's monthly tippers, Sash Lilik and Lion Turtle. Also, make sure to join the VRC group at noved.6608 and join the Discord because we have so many amazing events coming up this summer that you don't want to miss. I will also be exhibiting and working over at Project Fest 2025 from June 27th to July 6th, and also exhibiting and DJing at For Harvest Audio Cosmico on July 26th and 27th. Of course, as always, if you're coming back to check out some of the other episodes, why not hit that subscribe button? You're already coming back anyway. But with that, let's get back into the episode. Woo! Funny enough, you mentioned Snowden because it was actually me at the booth at that time.
Yep.
when because I was the only guy that was there during VRCon, and that's how we had met.
They had you facing a wall.
Yeah. Yeah,
He's like, what the heck, man?
It was a time, to say the least.
It was definitely a time. I will say, another part of the reason why we wanted those tutorials is because, take it from me, given all of the experimental things I have done over the years with all of these hundreds of avatars, 80% of them have no guide or tutorial. Yet I had to figure it out on my own through many hours of trial and error. Half of my couple thousands of hours of VRChat were literally just avatar testing on desktop in the background, trying to get all of these theoretical things working. And it's sometimes not just me, sometimes it's other creators in the call as well. You don't we're everybody's a team in VRChat. Don't isolate yourself. Open yourself up. I wouldn't have learned some of the things I know now if I didn't put aside any sort of ego and just sit down with someone I know who knows better than I do and ask them for a lesson on how to do something. It's a great learn. There's plenty of people who want to educate here and would love to explain. Sometimes you just have to sit down and ask. They're like, hey, I'd love to make this. Would you be free to do a Discord call or something like that? Because I'm working on something similar, but I'm not sure how it's done. A lot of the times you'll probably get a yes. People when they make something here, love to see more of it.
Yeah, no, the collaboration of VRChat in its own right it's infinite. You know, most people are willing to work with others and make new things together, or make things work properly.
Yeah,
because as we all know, creation in VRChat is very hard. No matter where you start from, it's I don't know why my immediate thought process is, I can't put it up on the screen because of copyright, but my immediate thought process was the Level Up Expo, the VisiPop like animation takes a long time. Like that's immediately what I thought of when I said that. But yeah, no, it's really cool what people can do together when it comes to creations and stuff.
And giving people a place that has guides for things that have guides nowhere else, I know would have been a godsend for me. Those people, that random guy on Reddit who has an answer, that one answer from 7 years ago to an incredibly specific problem you have, is the godsend, one of the godsend heroes of the internet. that random guy every time, and I want to be one of those random guys because I know what it's like to have no answers to what you want to do and just have to spend days trying to figure it out on your own. But once you figure it out, it takes minutes to do it in comparison.
Sure.
Yeah. Providing people those resources, especially for niche subjects, such as incredibly specific shader combinations or code conversion for shaders and such, is huge.
No, absolutely. But yeah, so funny enough, kind of going down the timeline a little bit, from VRCon 22, you were still doing your thing with Traveling Circus. You were going to these, worlds with people and doing little performances, and then moving down the timeline, we actually met up after a long time of being like just busy doing our own thing. And I told you in regards, I was a City of Ilya by Chopin.
Yes,
and I saw you there, and we had got back together and talked a little bit, caught up a little bit, and we kind of introduced you into some of the other events, like Project Community, getting you back into these events and stuff, to kind of showcase what you do in that grand stage again. Which I'm, to be fair, I've had some people ask, like, where's he been? I'm like, he's just around. He's just vibing. He's doing his own thing.
That's my whole thing. Just like the circus, you come and go. That's kind of the whole mentality. I mean, our original posters had no group links or anything. If you wanted to find us, you either needed to look us up in the group search or find us in the wild. That was the options, and it makes it a lot more fun when it's just when suddenly, like ASDF movie, suddenly pineapples. just suddenly there's just things happening.
For sure. But we got you into Project Fest 2024, and you were able to do a booth there, like officially. So
that booth.
Yeah,
so many things to happen.
So I guess since it was technically your first official like convention being there officially, what was kind of the experience like going from having a traveling booth to actually having a physical booth?
So first off, it was a blast as PJKT blows VRCon out of the water. Having that many communities in one space is an astronomical achievement. That is huge to have that many. And having that many people all fixed in that one location with an 80 player limit instead of a 20 with only 20 booths, having 80 plus booths with 80 players allowed a lot more community interaction, allowed for a lot more goofs. I got to meet faces and names that I'd never even heard of before, which really expanded my eyes to just how huge this game is. That there were communities with thousands of members that I just genuinely hadn't ever seen or heard of. And that's how big the game is now, that you can just lose groups with thousands of members in a crowd. Giving an opportunity for both those and people with only 100 or so to be on the same platform is astronomical. And I will say, technically speaking, it was cool to have a stationary booth, but I don't think I ever visited my stationary booth most of the event, as I was just constantly asking where my other booths are, as my booths still travel.
Right, yeah. I was saying, technically, you were the one that actually.
I was the only one that had a traveling booth.
Yeah, so I guess to give context, so we'll throw a video of it on the screen. But essentially, you could go behind the Moth logo and essentially click on the Moth behind the Moth, and you could essentially duplicate the booth and take it wherever you want to.
Yeah, you could do it a couple times. So you could take the booth, could just commit mitosis and make more booths. Yeah. And specifically, so we'd have a max of 3 booths, and people would just constantly run around with those and put them God knows where. Most of the time, other communities just wore them as trophies like hats above their booths. And occasionally you'd see like a 35-foot tall anime girl come by to steal it and run with it over to their booth to wear it as a hat on theirs. Yeah. And so whenever I join the world, my first question to somebody I know is like, "Oh, I'm doing great. Hey, do you know where my booth is?" Or one of the two.
Where one of them is, yeah.
Yeah, and then I just go and hang by that booth for the day. Sometimes I'd play space up into the booth and act as an upstairs neighbor. Like, "Hey, I see you checking out the booth downstairs. Have you considered coming upstairs? We got lights up here. It's nice." Just have a shindig with it. It was absolutely a blast. Never allowed to do that again, I'm told.
Correct.
Apparently, in the other instance, it started wars. It started, as I said, giant anime girl wars. But also, to be fair, I knew ahead of time that I wouldn't be able to do it in 2025. As I said, I like to try to be responsible with any sort of out there creative decisions. So I contacted the world creators, Pesky, Carrot, and them before I even submitted the booth to make sure, say, "Hey, I noticed a potential thing people could abuse in the SDK to give themselves a bunch of copies of their booths as pickups. I'd like to do this on a smaller scale, if possible. I want permission first, though, before uploading it, as I don't want to just upload it something iffy and dump it on you to get hold of me later about." Yeah. And it seemed they respected that, said, "Hey, because you found that, you can do that this year. We just won't allow it in the future."
Yeah.
For helping out with that. Yep.
Yeah.
And it was a blast. It was ton. I might have done a loophole again this year. This one's a little less troublesome because this one don't move. But I gotta say, this year is going to be an absolute blast for us and anybody who stops by this year.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like, so if you haven't seen the booth over at Project Fest 2025, you know what? We're not even going to spoil it here. Go check out the booth.
No.
There's
surprise.
I believe two. Yeah, there's I'm saying in my head so I don't say it out loud. Yeah, there's two amazing things on his booth this year that, once again, changes how you perceive the world. That's all I'll say. There's your teaser. Go check it out. Go check out Project Fest. It's literally live right now. Go check it out at pjkt.3741 for the group. All that stuff. You already probably watched a mid-roll by now explaining all this, but go check it out. But it is crazy how you did some of the things on there. Because actually, funny enough, and I'll here's your spoiler alert. If you want to remain unspoiled, skip to like this timestamp right down here. I did take a camera path from your booth directly to the outskirts of your pocket dimension. And I figured out how far it is from the actual map, and I'm like, holy shit, how the hell did he do this? And I know there's a bunch of other people thinking the same thing.
So that is incredibly specifically calculated. So it is perfectly outside of the render distance of the world. So you will never render it, and it will never put any load bearing on your system, no matter where you are in the base world. And when you're inside of it, it will de-render the main world area the entire time you're inside of it, which acts as a little bit of a frame rate sanctuary. So if you need to stabilize your frame rate, my booth also acts as an island. It was the same thing with my booth last year. People didn't really know about the secondary feature of the booth, but if you put the entire booth, traveling circus booth from 2024 over you, it would block out rendering from the outside and stabilize your frame rate. It had a bit of anti-crash built into how I set up the shader. And this year is similar, and it's specifically placed, one, to be outside of render distance, and two, to be just the right distance so people's avatars don't destabilize.
Huh.
Because if you go too far out, avatars start to destabilize from the 0-0.
Fair enough.
Perfect example. Yep, you'll start noticing avatars start to jiggle a little bit while doing nothing. On my old avatars, you could see it, especially if you have constraints on anything on your body, they'll start to distort, stretch, and bend. It's especially noticeable back in my forearm era, back when my Moth used to run 6 limbs. I ended up removing for optimization purposes, unfortunately. But it had a side effect where, due to it being an old constraint system, because we're talking old avatar base, it would stretch the fingers like freaking noodles once you got past 3,000 meters and start making them like 5 feet long. And then it would stay like that even if you respawned. It would just be terrifying, tying spaghetti ramen noodle arms. Let's see. Yeah, it was very well thought. I took a lot of time to really think it out. I will admit, I wish I could have done one more edit to the booth, but I also will admit I was too terrified to touch my booth again because it was working then, and I couldn't guarantee it would still work if I changed even one thing.
Fair.
So it was so precise.
I will say, in Fest 2025, because I know you've been to the test world a few times, some of the last minute uploads, I will say, they tried to mimic some of your stuff, and we've already put out notices to communities, like, if this gets abused, we're removing a feature. Like, we're removing, it's mainly pickups. Y'all know who, if y'all are watching this, y'all know who you are. I'm not gonna call you out.
No, I didn't have time to do pickups for this year, but being honest, I had so many ideas I wouldn't have known what I would have done. At best, I would have settled out with, if I can't have big booth, I can have tiny booth. That is tiny avatar size as a pickup. And maybe I'll make it a particle system that once every minute spawns another tiny booth.
Oh, jeez.
That would have been the fun. Yeah, you would have seen that chaos. Yeah. Every minute, just move it up one until you have a wall of booth.
Yeah, it'd be a max.
Instead, I scrapped. I scrapped that to go with. I scrapped that for the dimension instead to
That's
create
fair.
the visual effect that you saw inside of there.
That's fair.
With
but
non-copyright infringing royalty-free music.
true.
Yes.
But yeah, I was gonna say it's definitely a crazy thing. But yeah, man, I was say because obviously you've been making all these avatars, doing these performances for people, whether it's VRCon, Project Community, or even Virilium. You've also done some shows with Virilium as well.
Yep.
Made custom avatars for those performances and stuff. Which we'll definitely have to throw that on the screen as well. Because that one, I do remember that one. You showing me the testing version of it, and it was really cool. As he fades into the void barrel.
The barrel, it absorbed me. Help.
But yeah, so I guess like out of all the avatars you created, I know we talked about the Sears one specifically.
Oh god, here's the question.
So out of all the avatars you've made, what is probably the most memorable one you've ever done?
Memorable? See, that's a different question. I'm so used to people that I like that one. I'm so used to people asking favorite, and I'm like, that's like having 19 kids and you asking the parent which one's their favorite. This is a terrible question. Yeah. Not nothing against people who have asked that. It's not, I wouldn't say terrible. It's more so like there's no real answer to that. Memorable though. Yeah, favorite is hard. Memorable, I would have to say, every time I think about an avatar that's memorable to me, I will have to say the first one that pops into my head is the salesman character. Because he is the character I made when I was at an intersection making avatars where I was having a bit of a personal identity crisis with what I wanted to do with avatars. Because for a lot of people who know me now, who have met me in the last year or two, don't know what I was like originally in the game, avatar creation wise. Because nowadays people see the bright poppy performances, colors, visuals, trippy things. They don't know that I spent the first 2 or so years of the game specializing in horror avatars. Body horror, transfiguration, contorted limbs, just I made abominations. Just crime. Things that people say, ugh, why? And I said, I'm a snail. I'm a puppy snail. For those that know what the best boy avatar is, I turned it into a literal snail. That let that image flow into your mind on how that was done. Yeah. And I was hitting a conflict crisis because when Halloween came around, I got to make spooky avatars again. And it was so fun. It felt so fulfilling to do it again. But it led to concerns because, yeah, if you knew, there are single digits people that I know of left in this game who know the original me and what I did. And they know me as a very different person than the people know me now. I had nicknames back in the day that other people gave me, such as creature, entity, old god, glitch in the matrix. I've been hunted by anomaly hunting units like SCP, the Federal Investigation Bureau. I was specifically known as, oh no. People would say, oh my god, Lyric's here. Instead they say, it's here.
What's here?
I was a horror staple. Which is why I tell people this specifically. There are a lot of people who don't realize this is specific. I play this character because it's encrypted. That's why I originally wanted it. it gave me Mothman of West Virginia vibes, especially with 6 limbs when I had 4 arms that I could say hi. I could say, hey, hi 12, because I only got 4 fingers.
Right.
It's a bit more, and if you have 4 arms on this and flip the avatar face down, it is a somewhat anatomically correct moth.
Oh, wow.
And yes, it is a somewhat anatomically correct moth. So it's not just a humanoid, it's a creature. Because I loved my horror roots. And the reason I had a dilemma is I had so much fun making horror. And I wanted to make more, but I just don't know how people would react that I know nowadays, seeing that other side of me. Because the old me, if you'd brought me back 4 years ago, you'd find me taking 2 people to a dark, empty, pitch black room with only a post-processing lantern to illuminate 10 feet, and me just standing in the darkness with only my eyes visible, just with the creepy sounds, and you just see a long 15-foot arm reach into the darkness and grab toward the players or grab the lantern without the eyes moving. That's what I used to do for experiences. I used to be pure horror experiences. I traded that out for smiles, but I still love horror at its core. And so in that crossroad, the salesman is that perfect intersection. And that's why it's so memorable to me, as he is that perfect halfway point between the silly and goofy that everybody knows me for now, and the original me for the first half of my VRChat career, which was surprising, little bit horror, and a little bit off-putting. It was all psychological. So he's both, hey, this is goofy and silly, but at the same time, it's like he's got the vibe of there's something wrong here and not right with this thing, but also I'm too concerned to walk away. And that's his vibe. Entertainment that is a little bit spooky, but also you don't want to leave because you genuinely have no idea what to do next. And he's a great outlet for all of my one-off ideas. Such as, hey, what if I made a bottomless pill bottle? Put it on the salesman. He'll sell you infinite pills. Oh, wait. What if we made a big extra strength pill? He'll sell extra strength. Giraffe rides. Slap it on the salesman. It just makes sense on him. He's so nonsensical that anything nonsensical makes sense for it to be on him. And I love it for that reason. He's one of my most in-depth avatars I put the most work on, from mocap work to voice acting work to rigging work to hand animations, studio animations. There was so much different levels of random work and effort put into that one avatar. I'd still love to update him a bit more, possibly someday, but he really does feel like he feels almost like a complete package, and it's a little hard to go back to him for that reason. I'm the type of person that doesn't like to stick on one avatar too long. Eventually, I feel like I have the need to move on to the next idea. Don't make 7 sequels. Don't make 7 sequels. Don't make a manga or book series that goes on forever. It's okay for things to end. And sometimes having an ending is a good thing. It gives a conclusion for both the audience and the writer themselves, the freedom to move on to the next thing. So even though I love him, and Moth Den being another example, visual show, I did an Enchanted, which I updated for like 6 months. Eventually, you gotta stop at some point and move on to other creative endeavors. And that's the same thing you've done. I know you started with, you've got the podcast now. Now I know you've got Twitch streaming. You're expanded into PJKT. eventually, it's fun to do one thing, but sometimes you want to try something new. And there's nothing wrong with that. You have fun with it. Enjoy yourself. Don't feel like you are ever locked into just one thing.
No, definitely.
That is what the Spam Moth. That was what Spam Moth and the Moth Den taught me. They're my most memorable. I still love them, and they were some of the most used avatars. But they have had their time in the spotlight, and it's time to move on to greater creative endeavors.
Absolutely. So I guess kind of because we are actually a little bit over time, actually, surprisingly enough. It did not feel like an hour, to say the least. But kind of one of the final things before we do all the outros and stuff, because obviously there'll be a bunch of stuff on the screen overall. All the topics we talked about. So I guess kind of to end things off. What is some of the things that we could look forward to in the future when it comes to traveling circus?
Some of the things potentially to look forward to is we are finally potentially looking in to, no guarantees, our own custom world where we can do performances. This is an idea that's currently on the table. We're thinking of possibly making a world where it has sets in different environments, and with the flick of a switch, we're in entirely different environments and experiences, new colliders, new systems. So imagine you're in a gymnasium prom-like environment. Flip a switch, it's now back rooms.
Oh.
After 30 minutes. Now flip a switch again, suddenly you're on asteroids in outer space. And giving longer scale experiences without a lot of heavy things changing can be very nice, because it's a lot less work. It is a lot less work on our end to do longer scale transformed environments where you have a couple simple animations versus 3-minute endeavors that take 36 hours plus of manual labor and 2 weeks just to build that 3 minutes. It's being able to balance out a 30-minute easy session with a 3-minute intense session, then back to the 30-minute calm, is real nice. And also it creates memorable experiences for players. That, and I'm hoping to take the Moth Den, which is now going on 3 years old, and putting new life into it. Rebuilding that thing top to bottom with new features, new assets, and all of the knowledge that has been built up over 3 years into it. So at a later Virelium and possibly one of your later performances, we can whip out some crazy new stuff that blows the old Moth Den completely out of the water.
Hell yeah, we'll be looking forward to it. I know, especially with my event, which I know technically it's not been revealed yet, but here's another teaser. Boom, silhouette logo. That's all you can see. There's your second teaser. Because DownLyric mentioned it, second teaser. There's a shadow silhouette now of the logo that you
look at it. Look at it. We want all of you to look at it. It's so pretty, isn't it?
Yeah. Too bad they can only see like a black silhouette of it. Dude, DownLyric, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. It was a blast kind of learn a little bit more about you and more about the traveling circus. But before we do end things off, I do want to give you a spot to tell the people where they can find you, any links you want on the screen in the description. But yeah, go ahead and take it away and tell the people where they can find you.
The primary places you can find the traveling circus is, since we like to keep it primarily in game, both the traveling circus group page and the traveling circus Discord, which includes everything from crossover events that get announced when we are doing crossovers. PJKT is going to get published soon, as well as contains the aforementioned lyrics lab submissions for any of those of you who want to get help with your own creative endeavors or get inspiration of your own from the dozens of ideas listed there.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
And of course, all the links will be down in the description as well. So make sure to do check them out. And because it's mainly the Discord and the VRC group, I will say with a VRC group, it's going to be Circus.1373 for the VRC group. It'll be in the description as well. So make sure to go check that out. It's really nice that you have it plastered above your head. But make sure to go check out all the links. But yeah. Thank you once again for coming on. This was a blast. And now we gotta
for having me.
Now we gotta record all the avatars and stuff. But we're not quite done yet. But of course, ladies, as he's stretching, getting ready. Ladies, gentlemen, everybody inside and outside the ballpark, that has been it for episode 70 of the Noved Notes podcast. You come back into frame. I want to thank you all so much for watching, listening, depending on what platform you're on. Now he's over here. He's all over the place apparently now. But I want to thank you all so much for watching, listening, depending on what platform you're on. I want you to
good job.
Thanks, buddy. I want you to comment down below. What is your favorite part about the circus? Any circus. Whatever circus you've watched in your time, whether it's VRChat or in real life. Comment down below what's your favorite part about a circus. But I want to thank you all one last time for watching, listening, depending on what episode you're on. And of course, if you're already coming back to check out some of the other episodes, why not hit that subscribe button? You're already coming back anyway. But with that, last time, I want to thank you for watching, listening, depending on what platform you're on. And I will see you in the next episode. Take care and peace. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Noved.